Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Pike County, near Atlas at Chestnut Ridge, among about 3,000 chestnut trees. As it turns out, chestnut groves are very rare, and this time of year in the fall is when it's really busy. Well, Linda Black, you don't see many chestnut groves.
No.
Especially in Illinois.
That's true.
Maybe this is the only one.
Yes, I believe so.
And especially, of course, in Pike County here.
Exactly.
You know it's the only one in Pike County.
Exactly, that's
now,
for sure.
You told me, okay, we're going to get you a pair of gloves because
Right.
these things are killers.
They are.
Chestnuts. They sound so innocent, chestnuts do. You know? You said don't squeeze them.
All of these little spines are just like small needles, and they hurt when you pick them up.
And if I were to squeeze them, they might very well go through the gloves.
It may very well. And then this is pretty typical of a chestnut. Has 3 chestnuts in the burr, and that's typical. Anything other than that is atypical.
Well, that's kind of neat because you can just open that one. You don't have a lot of times this burr is a devil to open. Isn't it?
Very much so.
And so this, you can see there's 3 chestnuts. So that's typical. Now, should I do that too?
Sure.
Should I try to open it?
Sure.
Let's see if I can do that without getting
And when they're
stuck. Yeah, 3 chestnuts. Look at that. They're perfect.
these are nice nuts too. And then they naturally kind of make a separation into quarters. You know, it splits 4 times, and that's a sign that they're getting ready. And then the burr naturally opens and drops them down.
Now this is the time of year every year that you harvest, right?
Every year.
Late September, early October.
Yeah, typically our harvest is from the 15th of September to the 15th of October.
This is your real busy time.
Very busy time.
Okay, I noticed too, as we look around, we've got your husband Dale's here, and you've got maybe a handful of folks here that are also helping you pick these up. The only way that you know of to get these up and off the ground is by hand.
Exactly.
It's a lot
So
of
it's very
work.
labor intensive.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And how often do you go through every day?
Every day.
And pick. You do.
Yes. Like this section, when it's in heavy production, we'll try to hit it morning and afternoon, because anything that's
Twice a
left
day.
on the ground might be gone by. All the animals love chestnuts.
Do they? Now you leave the burr, right? I'm just going to leave the burr out here.
We typically clean the orchard floor. It tells us where we've been, and it minimizes pests that might harbor in the burr itself.
Okay. And you fill up a bucket pretty quick.
Yes, you do.
This is a pretty good exercise.
Oh, yes.
It keeps your belly trimmed, doesn't it?
I can always use help with that.
I can always use help with that, huh?
And and if you think about what you think of as a chestnut color,
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
it's very
beautiful.
pretty.
You know, what I'd like to do is can we come over here and look at this tree?
Sure.
This is a good one right here. Okay, now these trees are what, 10 years old?
Yes, sir.
In this grove. You've got about 30 acres planted.
Yes.
About, what, 3,000 trees, 2,500,
Yeah,
3,000
right.
trees? Okay. And this is about 10 years old. So at the age of 10, you start getting a good harvest.
Oh, yes, yes. These came from a seedling, a Dunstan seedling, and you will get chestnuts within 5 years off of a seedling, maybe even a little bit less. These were 2 to 3 year old seedlings when we purchased them 10 years ago, and they're not maximum production, but they're doing really well.
Now, the reason chestnuts are such a story and the reason they're so unusual is because back around the turn of the century, the 1900s,
Yes.
there was a terrible blight nationwide. And all of the native chestnut trees were gone.
Right, wiped out the American chestnut tree virtually. And if there's if you see a chestnut tree, it might be a cross between a Chinese and American chestnut trees, or there are some rare examples that might still be alive that have a genetic resistance to the blight.
And you were able to find the seedlings and the seeds
Yes,
that are resistant to the blight. And what is that called?
the Dunstan chestnut.
The Dunstan chestnut. Okay, and so when you planted these, you actually started with seedlings
Yes.
that were
Yes.
like this.
Yes.
And then you went with, and I believe this would be called
That's a chestnut or
The Dunstan seed, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And you plant this. This is what you plant. You get it free of the burr, and then this actually will grow you a tree.
True. And we planted about 1,000 seeds in the ground that were direct seeded, and that's this section here, and that's really everything as far as you can see out of these larger trees. These were seeds that we put in the ground. And then the other 2/3 of our farm is planted. We took those seeds and we grew them out in the greenhouse, and we planted the seedlings out the following fall. But they were germinated from chestnuts. So.
Now, what kind of care do these things take? Because, I mean, they look like they're just growing naturally. They wouldn't take a whole lot of pruning or anything. What sort of care does it take?
Well, the biggest thing that we have to do is protect the trees from the natural predators. We fought really hard to get these trees this size because the deer absolutely love everything about
What do they do, eat the bark?
They'll eat the terminals coming out when the trees are young. They'll eat the terminal, keep killing the tree back. They love the leaves. We can take you to places on the orchard that if something's down like this, they've eaten all the leaves back.
They eat the leaf. Of course, they don't eat the burr, do they?
No, but they do adapt to open the burr once it gets on the ground with their hoof, so that they can get the chestnut.
And so that means you don't get the chestnut.
Exactly.
Okay.
They beat us to the harvest.
And in Pike County, everybody knows that there's a lot of deer.
Yes, there are.
So now this white painting that we see around the bottom of the tree,
Yes.
is that for the deer?
No, that that's to protect against sun scald. In the winter, when you have snow and the sun in the afternoon reflects off the snow, there are places in this section where it actually burned the bark of the tree and damaged, a whole section of the bark was just burned all the way off. So that's a protection for the sun scald. How
do you keep the deer away from them?
In this section of the orchard, we put up an 8-foot fence, and that's effective. We have done some experimenting. All the orange on the trees around are experimenting that we've done with it's a safety fencing.
We can see that back on these
Sure.
trees over here because you can see that's a netting, kind of a netting
Right,
that you wrap
right.
around it.
And that's fairly effective, but the male sometimes still rubs that, and they can kill the tree from the deer, from rubbing their antlers and that kind of thing.
So that's working itself, isn't it? Just keeping the deer away.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then of course
exactly.
you come out overnight and you find out that not only do the deer love chestnuts, but everything loves chestnuts.
Yes, they do.
You'll find critters, raccoons and rabbits and squirrels. Everybody wants to eat that chestnut, and they take your harvest, don't they?
Yes, they sure do. And then in the winter time, we keep pruning up. You have to prune to be able to get equipment through here to mow.
Sure.
And originally, it was going to be more of a native planting, but the chestnut trees were just not thriving with all the competition from the tall grasses. So we found out that we have to keep the grasses down for them
I
to
noticed
flourish.
you have some moisture protective material too around it. Is that what that's for, to keep the weeds out, or what is that?
That was a weed protectorant. Kind of some of the weeds still grow on top of it. So, and eventually it will shade more in here, and there'll be less struggle. But just to keep the ground from eroding, we want to have grasses here and nutrients to go back into the soil.
So you have to keep it mowed.
Yes.
You have to keep it de-weeded, and in order to mow it, you have to keep it pruned so you can get the equipment through
Exactly.
here. So that's and these trees grow fast.
Yes.
I mean, you can tell if this is a 10-year-old tree, they're
Right.
already 20 feet tall.
Yes,
So.
And
Well,
then
this-
if you take a walk through the orchard, if we walk, just walk from here to the other end of this section, I guarantee you there's something we should have done along the way.
You see it, right? Yeah, you spot it. Yeah. Make a note because we got to get back on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so during this program, we get to see, of course, we're seeing the collection process right now.
Yes.
But you also have to get that darn burr off some of these.
Yes.
And then you have to size these things or grade them because you sell them by the pound per size,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So we'll see how that process is done too. And interestingly, your husband Dale is the one that designed the machinery that makes all this work because the chestnut business is not developed enough that there's just machines around that you can.
No. More in Europe and Asia, but in the United States, no.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I guess we ought to get collecting because
Okay.
there's a lot of work
Yes,
to do.
there is.
Okay. Jerry Rodhouse, you're a tree lover yourself, particularly chestnut trees. And you told me about the blacks when I was down here in Pike County doing a story on another topic. And you told me about the blacks. And you told me that it's very unusual to see a chestnut grove because there was a time in our history when all the American chestnuts got killed off by a blight. And that it was a terrible catastrophe because the continent was covered with chestnut trees. Describe that for me.
Well, I understand in the 1880s they said a squirrel could leave Maine, Mark, and could go to Georgia, never have to get on the ground, never have to leave a chestnut tree.
Oh, wow.
And these trees are, the wood is impervious to rot and to bugs. And so what a material for the early man to come in here, the early Americans come in and have a tree that they could use. And then it was initially wiped out.
Yeah.
There's still a few alive today, but they're growing from the stumps of the original trees. And there's even a few homes around that have chestnut floors. So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful tree. So therefore, when my uncle back in 1932, he decided that he wanted some chestnuts because they were all dying. He was born in '96, and I think, and so he planted some Chinese chestnuts. Those are the only things that was resistant. So he planted 2 trees, and I still have the tags for those trees.
No kidding.
It's kind of a little heritage there. And so he planted them, and therefore I've had chestnuts all my life. Those original trees are dead now, and I planted 3 more after I built a new home in '76, and so I'm again picking up chestnuts. And when I heard that these people, what they were doing, I've been friends with Dale and Linda for years, and I wanted to be part of it.
Yeah. Well, neat. It's quite a thing. And you know, they've developed, or somebody has developed, this 15/16 American to Chinese mix, which makes this seed work really well, and these trees produce abundantly, and they're resistant to that fungus, that blight.
I understand that Lloyd Dunstan down in the Florida area was working with them, and there's been many others, and they've developed several.
These are the seeds
this seed here, and by the way, you can plant those seeds, and they will come up. And in fact, Dale, I understand, I know he planted most of these from the seed.
Yeah.
And they're a good, healthy nut. Plus, they're really good for you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry. Well, Dale, this is a labor-intensive job, and you have found a way to sort of ease that a little bit by developing some machinery here to help you out.
That is correct. For several years, like 4 or 5 years, we've actually removed the nut from the burr by hand, and it's very time-consuming. So we had an idea to make a deburr to be able to take the nut from the burr, and we used to.
Yeah, it shows how you used to do it.
We used to just have to take them and dump them out like this.
Dump them out, okay.
And
every one.
Every one of them, and every one. And since we've got this machine, it really speeds the operation up.
Okay, and what's this called, a deburrer?
That's a deburr.
Okay. Now, this thing makes a lot of noise.
Yes, sir.
So you and I
Yes,
are
sir.
not going to try to talk over it, but what
Okay.
we can do is we can watch, is it Paul? If Paul would dump one in there for us, we can see how it works.
Sure, okay.
Okay, would you mind, Paul?
So after she comes out of the deburr, what it does is tear the burr away from the nuts, and all we have to do is then we will take this product and put it on what we call our sorting table, and we'll take the burrs that doesn't have it, which are empty, and we'll throw them in a container, take the nuts to the end of the table, and it's all sorted a lot quicker. Probably be able to cut our time in about less than half.
What happens to these things?
We use them for the compost pile, to make compost, which works really good for us because at least we have a byproduct that way.
Yeah, and you use it in the grove? I mean, you use it around the trees, or what do you?
No, I just make potting soil out of it.
I see.
So, and then from that point, when we get the nuts in a container, then we have our sorting machine, and that sorts the nuts in 4 different sizes. We got from 7/8 to 1 inch, 1.25 inches, to 1.5 inches.
That thing looks like an atom smasher. It looks really high tech.
For several years, Paul and I did this all by hand, and it's really by shaking them in a box. Well, that is very time consuming. So you can probably run 100 pounds there in about 3 minutes, and so it really speeds things up.
Now, Dale, your most fun part of this whole business was shaking out the nuts, right?
Well, it's time consuming. I'm not saying a lot of fun, but it was time consuming.
Well, what you need to do is you need to grade these because you have small, medium, and large, right?
That's correct.
And when you sell them by the pound, people want to know whether they're getting small, medium, or large.
That is correct.
So that's what you're in the process of doing here, right? How did you used to do it?
Well, we used to do it till this year. We take our nuts from our sorting table and we put it in a basket and we dump them in. And that's a 15/16 hole. And so to sort them out, we just take this and
Okay. And all the small ones have fallen down in here.
the small ones have fallen in there.
So you know what's left are medium and large, right?
Medium and large.
Now, I hate to see you work that hard. So what you did was, you and your wife built this, I call it the atom smasher. It's fantastic because it's got all 3 sizes incorporated in it, and you can dump the nuts in there, and it'll, like an auger, it'll work its way through, and the little ones first, the medium ones, and so on.
Yes.
And you and Linda, you bored every one of those holes in that plastic, didn't you?
Yes, I bored them, and then we had a deburring piece of equipment that Linda went and deburred each hole, both sides, and there's about almost 4,000 holes there. So she touched each one of them twice, about 8,000 holes she had to deburr.
But I bet you know exactly how many holes are in there.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Linda does too.
How many?
3,873.
I guess if you drilled every one, you'd count them, wouldn't you? Okay, so now you're ready to run some buckets of nuts through there for us,
Sure.
right? Can we turn that thing on and we can go ahead and see how this is going to work? I'll just get right here.
Okay.
So the little ones they fall down first.
They fall.
And as it works its way over, then the medium ones fall in the middle and the big ones fall at the end.
Yeah,
right?
the large, and then the last process will be the ones at the end are the what we call the extra large.
Yeah.
So we've got really 4 sizes here.
Isn't that something?
Would you like to dump one?
Yeah, I think I would. The whole
Yeah,
bucket?
Yeah, just a little at a time, be fine. Yes, sir. Now you're doing good.
Like so?
You bet.
Okay, let's go see the finished product.
Okay.
Let's go see what we've accomplished here. This would be the big ones, right? Because you have a separate bin.
Yeah, them's the large ones, yes.
Yep. Yeah, we're losing some, aren't we? So
That's
we'll push
okay.
that back in there. Excellent.
And then these are our extra large ones right here, come out.
You're a genius. It works.
It works. It saves a lot of time.
Yep.
That's what we like about it. It just time consuming if you don't, and this really speeded things up.
Well, Jerry, there's one note of caution that we need to raise here. These chestnuts look very much like a poison nut. And you brought an example for us.
Yes, I did, Mark. And these are the horse chestnut, or as they're better known as a buckeye, because you see the eye of a buck. And the only difference between them and several differences between the chestnut and the buckeye, the eye on the buckeye is smooth, on the chestnut is rough, and you turn them both over. Only the chestnut has a stem on it, and there's a little, as you can see, a little fuzz. The buckeye is bitter. You will eat enough. They will make you very sick, but there's a bitter that you will not eat enough to make you sick. But we don't want people to make a mistake picking up buckeyes out of the woods and thinking they're them chestnuts.
Yep. Well, Linda, you know, you go to all this work, and people might be wondering, what for? Well, you can cook a bunch of stuff with chestnuts.
Sure.
In fact, they're delicious, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're very good. Delicious and very low in fat naturally. They're complex carbohydrate, and they're just a holiday treat.
Here's what they look like. You prepared some. This is just a raw chestnut taken out of the shell, isn't it?
Yes.
And when you asked me to taste it earlier, I did, and you said, tastes kind of like a raw potato, doesn't it?
Yes,
It kind of does, but it's a little sweeter than that. But it's got that crunchy, same kind of fibrous taste to it. And you could have a good time snacking just on these.
Sure.
However, the old song, you know, chestnuts roasting on an open fire,
Yes.
they smell really good when they're roasting. And describe to me the difference in taste between a roasted chestnut and a raw one.
Okay, the raw one is kind of starchy, like a raw potato. Once you roast it, I think the texture of the chestnut is a lot smoother and it has a very sweet taste naturally.
It brings the sweetness out, huh?
Absolutely.
You've got some over there roasting. Would you lift that lid for
Sure.
us and see if any of those, if we can, of course we can't smell it on television, but maybe we'll be able
Okay, great.
to smell them.
Oh.
Yeah, see, that's why people sing songs about it. That
Exactly.
smells so good when they're roasting. And you also prepared some for me that have been roasted. And let's look at how easy they are to peel. That comes right off, like that. And no crunching.
Nope.
It's real meaty and sweet. In fact, you can make pie out of that. It's delicious. You have made some things like pie here, haven't you?
Right. These were brownies that were made with chestnut flour. The chestnuts were dehydrated, and then the flour was, made from that because chestnuts are gluten-free, and that's really important for a lot of people with, gluten intolerances today.
Now, these are all roasted here.
Yes.
But there's lots of ways to roast chestnuts, and one of the things you do for your customers is you give them an example, and it's incredibly easy. You could do it in the microwave.
Sure, the microwave, the oven, your grill outside, and what we did today, we used a electric popcorn popper. That's just kind of a easy way to do it.
That's what that is. But if
Exactly.
you want to do it over the open fire, this is the best way because this is an old-fashioned popcorn popper.
Yes.
You just put them in there and kind of
Open
bounce them
fire.
around for 5 or 10 minutes, right?
Right.
And boy, do they smell good. They really smell good.
Or
when
your
they're roasted.
fireplace. Great
Yeah,
in
or your fireplace.
fireplace for
Yeah,
the
inside.
holidays.
You bet. Okay, we talked about the brownies. These are the roasted chestnuts. One thing you do that you caution people about is before you put them in a microwave or roast them or anything like that, you want to score them first.
Yes, you do.
Why is that?
They will explode. They're
Well,
very
that's a good explanation and good reason to do it. Can you show us how you would score one?
Sure.
Do we have the scoring knife out?
Here's a chestnut knife, and to score them, to roast them, the best way is to make them easy to peel is to cut it long ways all the way around it, so that you'll have a nice easy opening chestnut when you're finished.
Oh man, those are just so delicious. Yeah. And, okay, if that's not enough for folks, you also have a book, a chestnut cookbook. But and these are on your internet site, right?
Yes,
these
they
are on
are.
your webpage. Chestnut dressing, chestnut spinach dip, pesto. Wow, you could cook anything with it, huh? Hummus, you could spread that on pita or anything like that. Cream of chestnut soup, that sounds good. Sauteed apples and chestnuts. There's a fall delight. Excellent. What a wonderful hobby / business you have.
Thank you.
That's great.
It's a lot of fun.
I'll bet it is. When you get, yeah, especially now that you have some machinery to help you with the drudgery,
Sure.
right? Okay. Well, Linda, thank you so much for showing us around. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been our pleasure.
Linda does caution you, though. I mean, they will be out of product by December 15th. So if you want chestnuts for the holidays, you got to act soon. With another Illinois story near Atlas in Pike County, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.